Welcome to Building Better Communities with Bob Hart. This season, we're celebrating a major milestone for True America Multifamily. 13 years of building better communities across the country. In that time, True America has grown into one of the largest and most active multifamily investors in the U.S. Ranked number 23 by NMHC with 65,000 current units owned and managed and $16 billion in assets under management across 300 properties in more than 40 markets and in over 20 states. Today, True America's strategies span value add and core multifamily, affordable housing, residential development, and structured finance. True America is focused on one mission: helping meet essential housing demand. Now, here's your host, Bob Hart.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Building Better Communities, featuring none other than Justin Wheeler, the CEO of Berkadia. Today, we're going to talk about many different things, including Justin's career development and how he became the CEO of Berkadia. And we're going to talk about times that are built through uncertainty in business and how you could take an opportunity and turn it into something really big. So Justin is now the Chief Executive Officer of the company, but your story is not just about scale. It's about vision through volatility. It's about building institutional strength in the aftermath of crisis. And it's really about one of the most important issues facing America today, which is the business we're in, which is housing. How do we finance it? How do we build enough of it? And how do leaders like you navigate a market that has been reshaped by interest rates, regional shifts in the economies, affordability pressures, and evolving capital markets? But today we're going to talk about leadership through uncertainty in the future of multifamily and what it takes to build a resilient community in a very rapidly changing world, thus building better communities. So, given that, Justin, you were part of the original team that helped form Berkadia during the financial crisis, 2009, I believe. And certainly your background precedes that with the predecessor in interest, Lucadia, where you started your early career, and you worked your way up to vice president in the early 2000s, the chief operating officer of this company, 2006, 2015, and then eventually to what you're doing now at Berkadia. But let's talk about that early period. And I think that's a good place to start because it was at the great time of the great financial crisis.
This was 2009. I'd been at Lucadia, as you said, Bob, since 2000, and I'd really got to be able to sit at the knee of two of who I think are truly two of the most unique investors of our time period, and that was Joe Steinberg and Ian Cumming at Lucadia. Really,
a little bit about each of them, because I don't think a lot of people are. They're pretty low key, and Ian's not around anymore, but I do know Joe.
Yeah, for sure. These were the best way of that I described them as they were two of the class of 1970 from Harvard Business School, classmates who had obviously a liking for each other, had very different skill sets. Together they made incredible decisions and were extremely smart and almost savant-like about opportunities, seeing opportunities in the markets that they were in the 80s through kind of the early 2000s. Joe, Brooklyn born and bred, and stayed there kind of his entire career. And Ian was born in Western Canada and immigrated and migrated down to Utah through obviously a tour on the East Coast, and stayed in Utah. So it was a long distance partnership. It lasted really well. And again, their track record spoke for itself. At many points along the way, it rivaled Berkshire Hathaway's in terms of compound annual returns to the shareholders, was in the 30 percentile range for a long time. And that was a real opportunity for me, and to kind of bring that forward, like that was one of the opportunities that we discovered together as a team was, Capmark, which prior to that had been GMAC Commercial Mortgage. And we found that in the bankruptcy in 2009 and brought it out kind of at the very worst part of the GFC.
A lot of people don't know that a company like General Motors was also in the real estate business. That was at an entirely different time where they were looking to probably diversify some of their cash and so forth. but it was not their core competency. How did they end up getting in trouble, or what caused the kind of the spin out into Capmark?
Yeah, I think there were a couple of things. It was kind of to your point, Bob. There was a point in time where like being a conglomerate was like kind of in vogue, and
Right.
they had many things. They had a financing company, which ultimately became what we know now as Ally Bank, and they had a mortgage company, and they had a whole bunch of other things. And then it kind of came out of vogue, and from a valuation standpoint, it wasn't kind of they weren't getting a premium for having all of these different businesses under the same roof, and so they started to and also the auto business is struggling a little bit, and so getting some liquidity and moving some of those things out from under them was a good thing to do. And in 2006, they sold a piece of the commercial mortgage company to kind of some Wall Street luminaries, the KKR, Goldman Sachs, a few others. And the idea was that they named it Capmark. The purchasers named it Capmark, and they were going to IPO that in 2009. And obviously, plans
Yeah.
are great, but until you get punched in the face, as Mike Tyson says.
Why?
So
What happened then that slowed that down?
yeah, they made all sorts of great, equity investments and all sorts of kind of, high octane loans, and just at the wrong time in the cycle. And so that was the end of that. And we found it in bankruptcy court and brought it out really December 11th of 2009. And that was an acquisition by kind of engineered by Lucadia, but it had a partnership with Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, and so we were 50/50 owners of what we renamed Berkadia.
But was the impetus for Joe and Ian to obviously they must have saw a really good deal there somewhere, even in the trash heap of Wall Street, and they probably brought in Berkadia for balance sheet help, or just as a partner, or what was the driver there?
Yeah. Just like you say, I mean, really, the way that we valued the company, I was there was a really fun process. Is we looked at had $220 billion of servicing, had very predictable cash flows from that servicing portfolio, and we bid the total of those cash flows from the servicing at a 15% discount rate. That was our bid. And we brought in Berkshire Hathaway for a couple of reasons. One, the original people who found the deal actually went to Berkshire first, and Warren said, "Hey, this is a lot of work. Go to my friends at Lucadia and see if they want to work on it, maybe team up." So that's
Hmm.
kind of why we got involved and how that partnership
Ah,
came together. And
so it
the
came
balance
together
sheet
that
was,
way.
yeah, the balance
Okay.
sheet was also helpful. We'll honestly say
All right. Well, I just
that.
wanted to get that out on the table. But so you're, I don't know, I'm not going to age you too much, but you were like just about 40.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Going from working with two iconic figures, Joe Steinberg and Ian Cummings, to now sharing new bosses in the sense of you also had Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger.
yeah.
That's
That's
a lot of testosterone in one room for a young guy.
Yeah, but and I always say this and qualify it, like relative to the everything else that was going on at Berkshire Hathaway, Berkadia was a pretty small deal, and really we thought
For
about
you,
it
not for you, and not for the
not for
team.
me. No, this for us and
So
the team, this was life.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
No, I get it. I have a partner in my company, True America, who, it's, to us, it's a big deal. To them, we're a small part of a bigger balance sheet, but it doesn't become any less important from a day-to-day execution standpoint for anybody.
100%. Yeah,
So,
and I'll just say, Bob, that for me personally, and as you can imagine, I mean, I was 38 years old at the time. Like I felt the weight of it, and I still to this day feel the weight of the trust, honestly, that at the time Lucadia and Berkshire Hathaway put on
yeah.
me. That's one
I
of the
mean,
things that motivates me.
to be honest with you, you weren't a known figure in the real estate business. You had come from a different business. When I
Correct.
first met you, I said, "Who is this guy?"
Yes, yeah, and
So
fair enough.
I mean, you weren't that way. I mean, you could come from investment banking, right?
Right, right.
I mean, essentially, that's it. So you had to make a transition into the real estate business, and in a big way into mortgages and housing, which is today, a big issue in America in a lot of different ways.
Yes.
So, what do you think the greatest teaching moment was, Justin, at that point where you had this inflection of risk, opportunity, and then operational leadership?
Yeah, I mean, there are quite a few, but I'll just give you the one that was seminal to me early on, and this is Berkadia from 2009 until 2000 and from 2009 until 2014 when I became the CEO. And when I first became the CEO, I had these grand plans of like, man, there's so many things we could do, and there's all this important stuff. And as part of our servicing book, we had about $7 billion of escrows, and we got to keep a large part of the earnings off of those escrows, but they had to be invested in things that were so, liquid and so safe that really wasn't very much earnings
7 billion.
7 billion. Yeah,
Those are like the tax and
correct.
insurance and renovation
Yes,
reserve type escrows.
that's exactly right.
You
And
got to keep the interest on that though, right?
yeah, we got to keep some, not in every case, but some of it. But the interest was
Yeah. You're
little.
not living on 10 basis points or 2 basis points.
That's right. And I remember thinking in my mind, like, hey, here's my first opportunity. I'm a big finance guy. I'll figure out how to like double our escrow earnings from 17 basis points to 30 basis points, and everyone will think I'm a genius. And so I fired off a memo to Warren about it and just said, hey, here's how we get from 17 to 30. And it had like credit default swaps. I was very proud of it.
Wow.
It was very financial. And he communicated back to me through the person that he had working more closely with me.
Yeah.
He said, tell Justin his job is not to find incremental yield on excess cash. I'm pretty good at that. Tell Justin his job is to build the best franchise in the industry. That was a
Wow.
poignant moment. That was that
That was a teaching moment.
that still
That's
hurts when I think about
pretty,
it.
yeah. I guess when Warren Buffett is giving you direction, and even if he did it politely,
Yeah. Yeah,
that's
exactly.
that's pretty good direction. So there were some teaching moments there, I'm
Yes.
sure, for you.
Yes.
And really, it sounds like even though there was some opportunities to financially improve, it really came through operational leadership and building teams.
That's right.
So now you're taking this remorphed company, okay, giving it a new name, a new life. What do you do next as far as talent, hiring, building, and extending the platform?
Yeah, well, I'd say one of the things is just kind of stepping back to that moment in time when he said that did something to me. I'd worked for a public company for 15 years of my career. I knew the pressures and stuff that were there. And this realization came to me that like, wait a minute, we've got ownership that has deep pockets. We have ownership that has patience in an industry where most of our competitors are kind of driven by they're either publicly traded, so they got quarterly earnings pressures, things like that, or they're a bank and they got a bunch of other issues or those sorts of things. I have an amazing opportunity to think long term and to think about doing things today that may not pay off in 6 months, may not pay off in a year, but are building this franchise that is going to have incrementally or on a compound basis a bunch of value. And that's really where it started, was like, how do we get a vision? How do we get a common culture at our company? How do we hire the right people, not the number one producers in the world, but the right people to make a team that over time could dominate this industry? And that's really it all started with kind of that moment when Buffett cleared my windshield for me.
Well, he was telling you, Justin, go chop some wood here. Just like you're that statue of Abraham Lincoln standing over your left shoulder with his axe. Okay.
Yes,
I
yes.
think that's that same symbol of that. Tell the viewers how you got that statue because I heard the story. It was pretty good.
Yeah, so I have a bronze. It's about 2 feet high and it's about 300 pounds, and it's of Abraham Lincoln. It's called the rail splitter, and it was done by a Utah artist many years ago. But that's
You and
it's got a
Abraham are
history.
about the same height, right?
He's a little taller. He's a little
A
taller,
little. He was
David.
a little taller. Okay.
And when I first was hired at Lucadia, which was kind of this Wild West place, that they handed me a laptop when I walked in the door of the office, and I said, "Well, do I have an office?" And they said, "Yeah, there's some. Go find one." So I went down to kind of the basement of the place and looked, and there's a room that was an office, but it was full of boxes, and I just started taking boxes out, and lo and behold, this statue of Abraham Lincoln is sitting in there. And since that moment, it has been in my work office my entire career, going on 26 years now.
Your lucky charm. That's
Yeah, it
your
is.
guidepost.
It is.
I guess when you were
Yes.
coming out of BYU as an MBA, they didn't have a class on how to find my office, right?
No, they did not.
There was no teaching on that. So you've gone from Lucadia, which was more or less investment banking,
Yep.
buying companies,
Yep.
to now operating this very large platform. I think it's You guys, what rank are you now in the mortgage board?
We like to say that, because it's true, but also we like to say it. We're the number one originator of Fannie, Freddie, and HUD debt on the multifamily side in the country.
So you are the number one originator.
Yes.
Got it. And how big is the servicing book now?
440 billion and counting.
Okay. Hey, if you can get a couple extra basis points on that, right?
Hey, the escrows, there's escrows involved with those, Bob.
So you're really one of the largest commercial real estate finance platforms in the country.
Correct.
I think the value has improved for the shareholders. What do you think, Justin?
I counted, this is not this year, but I counted what their return was, and let's just say they've got their capital back many times, and the company is worth many times what they bought it for. So it's been a wonderful investment for them.
Um, so after you became CEO and it started to expand Berkadia in both the size and the reach, what were some of the key decisions that enabled that growth for you? Like, what were some of the things that spoke to you at the time and directionally?
Yeah, so I would say a couple of things. One was we in 2013 we bought an investment sales platform. Prior to that, had been servicing and mortgage banking, and we did that. I really had a vision that like
Was that the
the
Hendricks and Partners deal?
it was a Hendricks and Partners
Yeah.
deal, yeah, in 2013. And in my head, the idea was how I thought about like how stockbrokers had eventually evolved into financial advisors and how investment bankers had really evolved from transaction folks into advisory. And I thought our industry was on the same path. And eventually, investment sales and mortgage banking coming together in service of our clients and providing all of the capabilities was going to be really important. And so that was one of them. And then the second one, Bob, was if that was true, then the day of kind of the lone wolf, sharp-elbowed individual producer who wouldn't collaborate or work with other people on the platform were numbered. And we need to get more people who are focused on teamwork and collaboration and on being kind of,
Well, you had to remorph some of that.
yes,
I mean, a lot of the brokerage culture does breed, big egos,
yes,
and big egos sometimes lead to sharp elbows. And I think the culture today, although, you do have people in brokerage that are very self-motivated and driven, there is much more of a team culture.
yes.
So you saw that early on, and you had to probably do some deconstruction to do some construction, it sounds like.
Yeah, I remember so well the day that we had on the investment sales side, we had our number one by volume broker by exponential, and I fired him, which he was surprised. He was surprised and at first told me I couldn't do it, but I fired him, and not because he didn't put up great numbers and not because we didn't make money off of him, but he literally was like the salt tree, like nothing mattered but him. And he was really hard on the rest of the
Yeah.
clients and on the rest of Berkadia. And that was going back to that could only be done at a platform that wasn't publicly traded, that wasn't, that had
Right.
that long-term view of what and had a vision of what we were trying to build.
But you did that, which was probably a very tough decision
For sure.
for the sake of building a new culture.
Yes.
And those are really tough decisions sometimes, particularly when you're new at your job.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sure there was some reverberation from that.
There was. I mean, I remember sitting down with the head of, at the time, the head of our mortgage banking and the head of our overall production and saying, this is what we're going to do. And I remember them both looking at me like, I had three heads and they were like, you understand what this does to our goals for the year as far as fees and production. I'm like, yeah, I got no problem. They're like, well, there's some people, that are bonused on this. I said, look, we'll fill what that guy's production would have been with, we'll just say we'll make it whole so that no one gets hurt from a bonus perspective. And they're like, well, that's crazy. And I said, well, we're not worried about 2000, we're not worried about 2015. We're worried about 2020, 2025, 2030. We're building something here.
That's a very healthy view, because a lot of times when service companies or brokerage companies are public, they're really under a lot of quarterly to quarterly shareholder pressure and demand.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
hard to make long-term decisions when you're under that kind of pressure.
Yeah, I mean, I've always said the brokerage business and the services business shouldn't be public. Now, it's you sell what you got, but I just say that because it's that's not how the business works, and that's not how that's not how you best serve your clients. You just gotta there's going to be days when it's great, there's going to be days when it's tough, but you got to be able to kind of ride that cycle and just do the right thing over and over again every day.
It's very, very good, Justin. I think that's very wise under the circumstances. People have asked, I myself spoken at conferences, what do you think is going to happen in 26? I said, really simple, more to fix in 26. But we're not
Right.
we're not through it all yet.
Right. I would
I think
say
we're.
no,
What do you
sorry.
think? Another year?
Yeah, I actually think that, things are starting to, from my perspective, and again, if you ask me next week, it's these things have a very short half-life in some
Yes.
way, because who knows what happens, if
No,
there's
you don't know.
you don't know, but like, I think that we're starting to see things move, and actually people who maybe thought that, gosh, if I can hold on for another 6 to 12 months, the interest rates will bail me out or something like that. I kind of think everyone's kind of recognized, or at least is thinking, we're kind of in the area 4 to 4.5 on the 10 year where we're going to be for a while. Now it's time to kind of like clean some things out, get some liquidity back to LPs or our investors, so reset bases, and here we go. I think so. I think you're right that it's probably a year before that's fully there, but I'm starting to see some green shoots that the second half of 26 there could be some good green shoots.
I hope you're right because we all want to take advantage of these opportunities that are out there for everybody
Yes.
and get really back to it in a bigger way than we have been.
Yes.
Um, and hopefully that'll happen in the coming year. Although, and I do think there is definitely improvement. But let's shift a little bit toward a policy issue in America, and that is the affordability of housing. We continue to have a housing shortage, both in for sale and multifamily. Not unilaterally across the country. There are some markets that we know they're overbuilt, but for the most part, we're always short in our units. And from your perspective, um, what are some of the structural changes you think that are going on that, we hear the word affordability everywhere in the conversation now. What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, and look, it's the issue facing our time. So if it was easily solved, you and I would, we'd be doing other things, I think. But
Yeah.
like, but I would say this, Bob, and you said it really well. I think the issue is one of supply of the right kind of housing
Hmm.
in the right place, and that combination is really important. So as you said, it's not unilateral. It's not every market is the same thing. It's literally down to like the sub market of kind of that dynamic. And as you know better than most, developing to an affordable, and by that I mean like workforce housing. I'm not talking like government
Hmm.
subsidized. That's almost nearly impossible.
Very
And
hard to do. There are
we've
some
real
groups doing it, but it's very hard to do.
yeah, very hard to do. And we've kind of relied on over time, Class A apartments become Class B, and Class B becomes
Right.
Class C, and
Natural
that
evolution.
yeah, and that gets harder when you know there's when there's less action that happens for a period of time, as there's less opportunity for those to naturally kind of do that. And when you have a big, for a while there, as you remember, during the last, 6, 7 years, 8 years, 10 years, value add was a big thing. And it was, how do we take this C apartment, turn it into an A apartment? So like
Yeah.
that natural evolution was kind of being reset. And it puts us in kind of a pickle from a policy perspective. But I do go back to, again, what you said, supply of the right kind of apartments in the right locations is the key.
Because and the truth is that corporate aggregation of housing is just a very small subsegment of the
Yes.
overall ownership of
Yes.
single family.
Yes.
I mean, it really has created a new class of rentership, is what it's done, and it really found a home for a lot of unsold, distressed homes, particularly during the GFC,
Yes.
and that aggregation has had somewhat of a positive effect, but not from a populist perspective.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if you think about it, I think about it on the spectrum. Like you come out of college, you get a couple of buddies, you rent an apartment, and then you make a little more money and you rent your own apartment, and then you get married and you have your first kid, and all of a sudden you want a little yard and you want a little bit of space and a sidewalk for someone to learn to ride a bike, but you aren't ready to say, I'm going to live here for the next 20 years. That kind of rent, build to rent or SFR product is so wonderful in the spectrum. And then the next step is you buy your house in the place you want to be. And so I don't understand exactly, but you're right. The populist part, it makes for a great headline that corporate America is buying all the single family houses.
I think you pointed it out very well is that the span of rentership is longer now, and older millennials that aren't ready or may never be ready to actually own a home, but they do want the expansiveness of what it's like for a home, whether they have children, they have pets. So the whole, call it build for rent uh, concept is serving a real purpose.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I'll give you a great, one of the things I think that is misunderstood is labor mobility. I have a very good friend who got a
Mhm.
house, he bought it, I think in 2019 or 2020. He had like a 3% rate on it. He, fast forward to 2025 or 20, he was trying to move across the country, and he's like, I can't sell my house, that was at 3% because now it's not worth quite as much because rates have gone up, and then trade into a house where I got a mortgage for 6%. I mean, it's just he was only
Right.
there for
They're
three.
paying double.
Yes, that's right. And so I just think that like when
That's
you
an
get down to
affordability issue in and of itself.
100%. Yes.
Yeah.
And one of the
That
things that
one doesn't have a
America's,
fast answer.
yeah, and America's always been great. One of the things about America I think that's been great is the idea of labor mobility. And I know that we now all work from home and all that stuff, but that's not true. Like I think that it's really important that people are able to go to where opportunity is without kind of having artificial reasons they have to hang around somewhere.
Yeah. Um, I think that's part of the reason why also, Justin, that rentership has gone up so much because I think there's a fear of being stuck,
Yeah.
and because of labor mobility. Um, and my God, we saw that during the COVID period where people were able to really work remotely. Not as much today, but there's a certain element of that freedom that exists.
Yeah, and I think there's always been, there's always been this idea of the American dream, and I'm not against it. I'm just saying that like there's now a group of people that we call renters by choice. There's just some people who don't want to own a house and don't want to have the hassle and want to travel a little bit more, or don't want to take care of a yard, whatever the case is. And still though, we kind of just want to simplify it and say everyone who rents is just waiting till they can buy their home. I just don't think that's true.
I would have to agree with you. I think there's a subset of rentership that is renting strictly um, by choice now,
Yes.
more and more so. Um, so I would consider you guys a private capital type firm. Well, what role can Berkadia or other companies like Berkadia do? I mean, we've pivoted ourselves into affordable housing, but what can we do you think, to improve affordability and expand housing access? Have you considered that?
Oh yeah, I mean it's one of the kind of the things that excites me about my position and the position of Berkadia is I think we're in a really great place to make a difference. Now, what's hard is it's not, it's we don't have we talked a little bit about it's obviously nice to have Berkshire Hathaway as a parent, but like we don't have direct access to their balance sheet and they're not looking for kind of reasons to put things out at subsidized returns. I mean, that's not their deal. But does put us in places where, from a policy perspective, because I really think, in 1930, the government decided that they were going to get involved in housing in America, and once they made that decision, that's where they're at, and so they've got to be ones who really are enacting and thinking about things, everything from Bob we talked about a little bit like NIMBY, like communities who have all these rules and reasons why people can't come in and densify and do things. And look, I'm against it until it's right next to my house, right? I mean, I understand that what they're talking about, but the federal government has a role to play in helping people, helping communities get rid of that and to lower those costs that go into kind of development in those sorts of area or preclude development in those sorts of areas. So I think there's some things to do there. The LIHTC program's been a wonderful program as far as creation of actual affordable housing
Hmm.
right off the bat. So I think that's a great program. There's obviously the vouchers that come out of HUD and things like that that directly subsidize renters. But I do think I'm kind of an old capital markets guy. It's a supply and demand thing. How do we incent and motivate people to build the right kind of apartments in the right place? That's the question that you got to have a public-private partnership to help figure out.
So it sounds to me like your perspective, based on all these years you've been involved in the housing industry, is we need more directed and specific housing policy right down to the Main Street level that stimulates new growth
Yes,
and better growth.
yes, yes,
And
and
a lot of the bottleneck is in local government, though.
it is, and that's where I think that's where I have hopes. And there's been a little bit of scuttlebutt around, the DC area about, hey, are there extra incentives we can give to communities that are lowering kind of their NIMBY and permitting costs and all that kind of stuff? And should we be taking some of the monies away from those communities that refuse to kind of, think about changing those housing? I think those are the sorts of conversations that need to be had and need to be explored. And I think they are being, I wish they'd speed up.
Yeah, well, a lot of it is political will. I mean,
Yes.
Governor Newsom attempted that here in California with going after small cities that weren't willing to build new housing, and I think there was some responsiveness to it. Massachusetts is going through it. There's a lot of green shoots to do that, but it takes a lot of political will as well.
It does.
To do that. Let's shift a second. We're in the AI era, technology. Your platform is probably using a lot of technology and thinking about its future. It's reshaping about every industry in America. We've seen the AI trade really lift the S&P. I think the AI related companies now are a big chunk, like 20% chunk of the S&P value.
Yeah.
Incredible. In your mind, how is that innovation changing the way deals are sourced or underwritten and executed? Or how do you think it's changing yet, or is it too
Oh,
soon?
I think it's changing, but on the margin, kind of like most of these things do. I mean, I remember, I'm old enough, unfortunately, to remember when like the internet was coming and people were like, "Oh my gosh, we're gonna all be sitting out on the beach with our pina coladas, and while the machines do the work, and we talk to each other without phones hooked to the wall." And I mean, it was amazing,
That has made us work
right?
harder. We have to be more responsive, faster,
Yeah,
Justin.
and I think that in a kind of a similar way, that's going to happen with AI. But do I think it's going to be disruptive? Yes, at the local, kind of again, if we talk about it in terms of apartments, at the local level, it's going to be very disruptive. But I think it's going to open up more opportunities in other ways. We have people at our firm that say that worry, like I'm going to be replaced by AI. I don't believe that, but what I do believe is people who learn to use AI will replace people who don't learn to use AI. I mean, it's going to be a tool. It's going to be like something that's very, very helpful, but still the human mind has got to do that. And I think in commercial real estate, the other thing, at the end of the day, if a human's going to write a $40 million check for an apartment building, they want to see another human and talk about it and have, creative and interesting conversations that I don't think AI, it isn't there yet, and I'm not sure it ever gets that very last inch of where that is that humans can do.
I'm going to have to go back because that statement was very prophetic. That humans that don't know AI will be replaced by humans that do know how to use AI,
That's right. That's
as
how I think
opposed to
about it.
just replacing for the sake of replacing.
Yes.
I think you're spot on there, and I think that's why a lot of CEOs are literally taking classes or getting private tutoring on AI. We have an AI task force. Yeah, you'll have to share with me who your tutor is because I can't help on that. But I think that's very true. I think it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. We're
Yeah.
all going to make process improvements. Hopefully, make our companies run ahead and run
Yeah.
faster. So here we are, 2026, right? You've been in the business now over 30 years?
No, but
Berkadia and
yeah.
Berkadia? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You started when you were 12, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're a
Yep.
protege coming out of BYU.
Yeah, that was it.
But look ahead for me 5 to 10 years, okay? 2036. Where do you see the greatest opportunities for transformation across our industry? Where do you see it?
Man, that's a great question, Bob. I would just say
Five
this.
years.
I think about our business on a spectrum again where I just think about the spectrum as the entirety of work that gets done. And I think that's split into what I call science and art. So things that can be done by machines, arts are what only can be done by humans. And I think more of that is able to be done by machines. But again, that part that's done by humans is going to be incredibly valuable, ever more valuable than it is now. Even though it's a smaller part of the totality of work that needs to be done. I think number one, I think that like financial analysis and like data transmission and like model creation and those sort of kind of like just
Right.
hard skills. I think there won't be very many humans that'll be touching that stuff.
So
But
it'll
where
be
I,
human learning from machine learning.
yeah, that's right. And then the machines will put it together in a way where, True America's secret sauce is embedded in their large language model or whatever it is, and you're able to kind of ask the questions that you want to ask and direct it to do what you want to do. And you're working with people, and this is what's important to me as a leader of an intermediary. You're working with people and platforms where you feel you're getting unique insights. And the value of proprietary data will be like more than gold. Um, and kind of that's kind of the one of the other things that we're really trying to shoot for is getting something that's unique to us. And we have that with $440 billion worth of servicing. We get really
So
unique
you're
data that
looking
no one else
across a
has.
very, very large segment of real estate through your own data.
That's right. And you asked me to look 5 years into the future. That's going to be more valuable. People who understand AI is going to be more valuable. And actually getting the task done, there's going to be less need for the people that, just do tasks. They've got to advance to, I'll give you a great example. Stockbrokers needed to all you needed to do is execute a transaction. That's all you did. They
Mm-hmm.
had to evolve into people who could give advice and work with, you and me and guys like
Huh.
us to help us
That's
prepare
how
our
they
future.
became advisors from
That's right.
stockbrokers.
That's what's got to happen in our industry as we have to be there. And in 5 years, I think we'll be way further down the road of machines doing some of the tasks, but really the humans spending their time thinking deeply about solving problems and helping our clients take advantage of opportunities.
Very, 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 very futuristic. So now it's 2031. You and I are going to have this conversation again 5 years from now. What would success look like for Berkadia in 5 years?
I grew up very competitive, and I want to win. That's a big deal for me. And so for me, it's kind of like a matter of market share. And the reason why market share, because I got to have something to measure. And market share to me means relevance. How relevant are we to our clients? How much are we adding value to them? Because they speak with their wallets, they speak with their pockets. That's the important part. And if they're not getting something incremental from us over and above our competition, they'll go to the competition. And so for me, it's a further increase in our market share,
Mm-hmm.
and a reputation of being a firm that lives by the values it talks about. Those are the two things that are most important to me.
So integrity
And
and continuing to grow
yes,
competitively.
yes. If you're not growing, you're shrinking. I mean, that's just how the world works.
You and I are very much in agreement on this, Justin.
Well,
Um,
it's all came from the farm, Bob. That's where I grew up on a farm, and my grandpa gave me most of the wisdom that I have.
yeah, don't stand in an open farm field without moving, especially if there's going to be lightning in Idaho there.
That's right.
You grew up, right, in Idaho?
I did. Yes, that's right.
Okay. All right. Well, my last question. What advice, because this podcast is called Building Better Communities. You're obviously doing that. But what advice are you giving to the next generation of emerging real estate leaders as they enter the industry, whether it's real estate or finance or mortgages? What are you telling them when you talk to young people?
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good question. I'll tell you, it's really evolved. So when I first got my position, I remember going and speaking at BYU and other places, and people would ask for advice for upcoming professionals, and I would say really focus on getting a hard skill, like become a spreadsheet jockey, be able to model in your sleep, be able to understand how to code or basic or something like that. And then over time, your career will morph into soft skills. I I would just say that I think that you better come out of school with some soft skills, ability to look at someone in the eye, shake their hand, get them to have confidence in you. And I think it actually, especially in today's kind of social media, that everyone wants to text, everyone wants to call, that personal touch and ability to build personal relationships is becoming more rare and more valuable. And so I tell people, like, put yourself out of your comfort zone, put your phone away. If you're ever told to contact someone, call them or go visit them. Do not text them. Do not send them an email and wait for their response. And I think that is really, really important because the machines are going to do more of the what first and second year analysts have done. Those guys have got to get up this curve faster.
It's very prophetic, Justin. I mean, I tell people all the time. I mean, they say, "Oh, the email system's down." I said, "Well, there's this device that was invented by Bell. I think it's called the phone." don't you call him? Maybe go see him.
Yeah, can you imagine? You want to see I have a son and he thinks he's going to get into the real estate finance business. He's finishing up his college. He's got one more year. And I told him, dude, you got to like go talk to people. And I mean, it was like, and I'm like, you want to set yourself apart? That'll set you apart from your generation.
You know what? You're a guy that's not afraid to push people out of their comfort zone. I love it. Well, Justin Wheeler, thank you for being here today, CEO of Berkadia. Thank you for joining us on Building Better Communities, and thanks to everyone for listening. Strong communities are not built by accident. You didn't build Berkadia by accident, and you're built by leadership, vision, and the courage to invest in the future. So thank you, Justin, for all you do for our industry.
Thank you, Bob. It was an honor, and good luck.
Thank you. Good to talk with you. Bye.
Bye.